The doorbell rang at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon. I remember the exact time because I had just finished reviewing my newest interior design portfolio and was about to pour myself a glass of iced tea. The sun streamed through my living room windows, catching the crystal vase on the mantel and throwing rainbows across the cream-colored walls. Everything in my life felt perfect, organized, beautiful. I had no idea that in the next 5 minutes, my entire world would crack wide open. I opened the door to find an elderly woman standing on my porch. She looked to be in her late 60s, thin and frail, wearing a simple gray cardigan despite the warm afternoon. Her eyes were watery and sad, and she clutched a worn leather purse against her chest like a shield. "Can I help you?" I asked, my professional smile in place. "Are you Simone Brooks?" Her voice trembled slightly. "Yes, I am. My name is Ruth Patterson. I need to speak with you about something very important. May I come in?" Something in her desperate expression made me step aside. I led her to my living room and she sat on the edge of my white sofa, looking like she might bolt at any moment. I sat across from her in the accent chair, my designer's eye automatically noting how out of place she looked in my carefully curated space. "Mrs. Patterson, what is this about?" She took a deep breath, and her hands shook as she opened her purse. "I have cancer. Stage 4. The doctors say I have maybe 6 weeks left, possibly less." "I'm so sorry," I said automatically, though I was confused about why she was telling me this. "I'm not here for sympathy, Mrs. Brooks. I'm here because I'm dying and I can't die with this on my conscience." She pulled out a manila envelope from her purse. "I'm here to tell you the truth about your husband." My stomach dropped. The room suddenly felt smaller, the afternoon sun too bright. "My daughter's name is Nicole Harper. She and your husband Gregory have been having an affair for 9 years. They have 2 children together. A boy who's 8 and a girl who's 6. The words hit me like physical blows. 9 years. 2 children. I opened my mouth but no sound came out. Mrs. Patterson continued, tears now streaming down her weathered cheeks. "I know this is terrible to hear. I've struggled with whether to tell you for years. But I'm dying and I can't leave this world knowing that you're living a lie. You deserve to know the truth. You're lying." My voice sounded far away like someone else was speaking. "Gregory wouldn't. We've been married for 12 years. We've built a life together. I wish I was lying, Mrs. Brooks. I truly do." She opened the envelope and spread photographs across my coffee table. "This is my daughter Nicole with your husband. These are their children, Brandon and Sophie." I stared at the photos. Gregory's arm around a younger woman with blonde hair. Gregory holding a baby. Gregory pushing a little girl on a swing. Gregory at a birthday party, a boy blowing out candles while Gregory stood behind him, hands on the child's shoulders. The room started to spin. I gripped the armrest of my chair. "How?" I whispered. "They met at a business conference in Atlanta 9 years ago. Nicole worked for the catering company. Gregory pursued her, told her he was separated, going through a divorce. By the time she realized he was lying, she was already pregnant with Brandon. He convinced her to keep the baby, promised he would leave you. He never did. Why are you telling me this now?" I asked, my voice harder than I intended. Mrs. Patterson met my eyes. "Because there's more and you need to know all of it before I die. Your husband has been supporting them financially. He bought Nicole a house in Riverside. He pays for the children's private school, their health insurance, everything. He's been taking money from your joint accounts for years." The ice in my veins turned to fire. "What?" "He set up separate accounts. He's been transferring money every month. Thousands of dollars. Maybe more. I don't know all the details, but Nicole has mentioned over the years how generous he is, how he takes care of them." I stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. Outside, the neighborhood looked exactly as it had an hour ago. Mrs. Henderson was walking her dog. The mailman was making his rounds. But inside my house, inside my life, everything had changed. "Why would Nicole let you come here?" I turned to face her. "Nicole doesn't know I'm here. She would be furious if she found out. But I can't die knowing what I know and leaving you in the dark. I've watched you sometimes, Mrs. Brooks. I've seen you at the grocery store, at church. You seem like a good person. You don't deserve this." "How long have you known?" "From the beginning. I told Nicole it was wrong. I told her to end it, especially after she found out he lied about being married. But she loves him. Or she thinks she does. And those children, they're my grandchildren. I love them. But this whole situation is built on lies and betrayal." I sat back down, my legs suddenly unable to hold me. "Does anyone else know?" "Nicole's best friend knows. Maybe some of the other mothers at the children's school, though Nicole tells them Gregory travels for work, that's why he's not around much. Your husband has been living 2 lives, Mrs. Brooks. 2 complete lives. I looked at the photographs again. The little boy had Gregory's nose. The little girl had his eyes. The evidence was irrefutable, staring up at me from my own coffee table. Why now? I asked again. Why not last year or 5 years ago? Because I'm dying and I'm scared. I'm scared of facing whatever comes next with this burden on my soul. I enabled this by staying silent. I helped him hurt you by not speaking up. Maybe this is selfish, maybe I'm just trying to ease my own conscience before the end. But you deserve to know the truth. She stood up slowly, her movements painful and deliberate. There's one more thing you should know. The house he bought for Nicole? It's worth about $400,000. The children's school costs $30,000 a year. Plus there's been vacations, cars, medical expenses. I estimate he spent close to $1 million on them over the years. Maybe more. $1 million. My hands clenched into fists. We had talked about expanding my design business. Gregory always said we couldn't afford it, that we needed to be careful with money. All while he was building a second family with money that was half mine. I'll leave these photos with you, Mrs. Patterson said softly. There's also a flash drive in the envelope with more pictures, some text messages Nicole saved, receipts. Everything I could gather. I'm sorry, Mrs. Brooks. I'm so terribly sorry. She walked toward the door and I followed numbly. At the threshold she turned back to me. My daughter is not a bad person. She made terrible choices, but she's not evil. Neither is your husband, probably. But what they did to you is unforgivable. Don't let them convince you otherwise. Don't let them make you feel like you're overreacting or being unreasonable. You have every right to be angry. You have every right to want revenge. After she left, I stood in my doorway for a long time, watching her old sedan pull away from the curb. Then I closed the door, locked it, and walked back to the coffee table. I picked up the photographs one by one, studying each image. My husband's face, smiling at children who weren't mine. My husband's arms around a woman who wasn't me. My husband's money, my money, building a life I knew nothing about. I didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, I felt something cold and sharp settling in my chest. Determination. Clarity. Gregory would be home from work in 3 hours. I had 3 hours to decide how to handle this. 3 hours to figure out my next move. I picked up my phone and made the first call. Not to Gregory. Not to confront him. But to someone who could help me find out exactly how deep this betrayal went. The receptionist answered on the second ring. Jacobson and Associates, Private Investigations. How may I help you? I need to hire an investigator, I said, my voice steady. Today. As soon as possible. Of course. May I ask what this is regarding? I looked down at the photos spread across my coffee table. At my husband's secret life laid bare in glossy print. Infidelity, I said. And financial fraud. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Gregory came home at 6:30, kissed my cheek like he did every evening, asked about my day like nothing was wrong. I smiled and told him it was fine, then served the dinner I had somehow managed to prepare despite my hands shaking the entire time. We ate pasta. We talked about his meeting with a new client. He complained about traffic. I nodded in all the right places, made appropriate comments, played the role of loving wife while my mind screamed with rage and questions. After dinner, he retreated to his home office to catch up on emails. I cleaned the kitchen, loaded the dishwasher, wiped down counters. Normal. Everything had to appear normal until I knew everything. The private investigator, Thomas Chin, wait, I can't use Chin. The private investigator, Thomas Morrison, had agreed to meet me the next morning at a coffee shop across town. I had transferred the photos from Mrs. Patterson's envelope to my phone, hidden the originals in my studio at the back of the house where Gregory never went. That night, lying next to my husband in our king-sized bed, I stared at the ceiling and thought about 9 years of lies. 9 years of him coming home to me after spending time with them. 9 years of birthday parties, holidays, everyday moments with children I didn't know existed. How many times had he held me and thought of her? How many times had he said he loved me while supporting an entire second family? The next morning, I told Gregory the first had a client meeting. He barely looked up from his coffee and newspaper. Okay, babe. Have a good day. You too, I said, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. I met Thomas Morrison at the Blue Cup Cafe at 9 a.m. He was a middle-aged man with graying hair and kind eyes that had probably seen every variation of human betrayal. Mrs. Brooks, he said, shaking my hand. Thank you for meeting me. We sat in a corner booth. I showed him the photos, told him everything Mrs. Patterson had revealed. He took notes, asked questions, his expression neutral and professional. I need to know everything, I said. Every detail. Every dollar. Every lie. Can you do that? Yes. It will take about 2 weeks for a complete investigation. Maybe less if your husband isn't particularly careful about covering his tracks. He's been doing this for 9 years without me knowing. He's been careful. Thomas nodded. People get comfortable in their deception. They make mistakes. We'll find them. I also need a recommendation for a divorce attorney. The best one you know. I work with several. I'll send you 3 names. All excellent, all experienced with complex asset cases. Thank you. As I drove home, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mrs. Brooks? An elderly, weak voice. Mrs. Patterson. Yes. I wanted to check on you. To see if you were okay. I know yesterday was... I can't imagine how difficult this is. I pulled over into a parking lot. Why do you really care, Mrs. Patterson? You let this go on for 9 years. Silence. Then, you're right to be angry with me. I deserve that. But I want you to know something else. Something I didn't tell you yesterday because it was already so much. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. What? Nicole thinks Gregory is going to leave you. He's been telling her that for years. Soon, he always says. Soon I'll tell Simone. Soon we'll be together properly. She believes him. She's planned her whole life around that promise. That's not my problem. No, it's not. But I thought you should know that Nicole has no idea you're finding out this way. She thinks she's going to eventually be Mrs. Gregory Brooks. She has no idea that the life she thinks she's building is about to collapse. Good. Mrs. Patterson coughed, a wet, painful sound. There's something else. Gregory told Nicole he was going to take her and the children to Cancun next month. He told her it was a family vacation, that he was ready to be seen with them in public. Nicole is thrilled. She's been posting about it on her private social media. Next month. The same time Gregory had told me he had a business conference in Chicago. Send me her social media information, I said. I will. Mrs. Brooks, I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but please, when this all comes out, please remember that those children are innocent. Brandon and Sophie didn't ask for any of this. I'm not interested in hurting children, Mrs. Patterson. But I am going to make sure their father pays for what he's done. After we hung up, I sat in my car and finally let myself cry. Not sad tears. Angry ones. Hot, furious tears that blurred my vision and made my chest ache. Then I wiped my face, fixed my makeup, and drove to my studio. I had 3 design consultations that afternoon, and I would handle every single one with perfect professionalism. Because that's what I did. I was Simone Brooks, successful interior designer, respected businesswoman. I didn't fall apart. I got even. Over the next 2 weeks, Thomas Morrison did his job with impressive efficiency. Every few days he sent me updates. Photos of Gregory meeting Nicole at restaurants. Videos of him playing with the children at a park. Financial records showing transfers to accounts I'd never heard of. He found the house in Riverside. A beautiful 4-bedroom colonial with a 2-car garage and a swing set in the backyard. Worth $420,000. Purchased 6 years ago in Nicole's name, but with money traced back to Gregory's business accounts. He found the private school. Riverside Academy, one of the most expensive in the state. Both children enrolled, tuition paid annually from an account Gregory had opened without my knowledge. He found credit card statements. Jewelry for Nicole. Toys for the children. Furniture. Groceries. Utilities. Everything documented, time-stamped, proven. Thomas also found something else. Gregory had taken out a second mortgage on our house 3 years ago. $40,000. He told me nothing about it. That money had gone to renovating Nicole's kitchen. Our house. The house I had inherited from my grandmother. The house that was supposed to be mine, that I had put in both our names when we got married because I loved him and trusted him. He had used my house to improve his mistress's home. I met with the divorce attorney, Patricia Goldstein. She reviewed everything Thomas had gathered and smiled grimly. This is going to be very expensive for your husband, Mrs. Brooks. Very expensive indeed. We can prove adultery, financial fraud, misappropriation of marital assets. New York is an equitable distribution state, but given the circumstances, I'm confident we can get you considerably more than half. I want everything I'm entitled to, I said. Every single penny. You'll get it. On the 14th day, Thomas called me. I have everything you need. The The full report is ready. There's just one more thing you should know. What? Your husband has been looking at engagement rings. For Nicole. I have photos of him at a jewelry store last week. The sales associate confirmed he put a deposit on a 3-carat diamond ring. An engagement ring. While still married to me. Thank you, Thomas. Send me the final bill along with the report. That evening, I made Gregory's favorite meal. Steak, roasted potatoes, green beans. I set the table with our good china. I wore the blue dress he always said he loved. What's the occasion? He asked when he got home, looking pleased and surprised. No occasion. Just wanted to do something nice. We ate dinner. We drank wine. He told me about his day, about the new contract he'd landed. He was in a good mood, relaxed, happy. After dinner, as he sat on the couch checking his phone, probably texting Nicole goodnight, probably texting his children, I went to my studio and retrieved the folder I'd been building. I walked back into the living room and placed it on the coffee table in front of him. What's this? He asked, barely glancing up from his phone. Open it. He set down his phone and opened the folder. I watched his face as he saw the first photograph. Him and Nicole at a restaurant. His expression shifted from confusion to recognition to pure terror in the span of 3 seconds. Simone, I can explain. Don't. My voice was ice. Don't say a single word. Just look at all of it. Every page. You owe me that much. He looked. I watched him turn page after page. Financial records. Photos. Screenshots of text messages. The property deed for the Riverside house. Tuition invoices. Credit card statements. Everything. His hands started to shake. His face went pale, then red, then pale again. When he reached the last page, he looked up at me with tears in his eyes. Simone, please. Let me explain. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think, Gregory. 9 years. 2 children. Close to $1 million. A second mortgage on my grandmother's house. Did I miss anything? I love you. I never stopped loving you. You have a funny way of showing it. He stood up, reaching for me. I stepped back. Don't touch me. Don't ever touch me again. Simone, please. Nicole. She was a mistake. A terrible mistake that got out of control. But you're my wife. You're the one I love. We can work through this. I laughed, bitter and cold. Work through this? You have 2 children with another woman, Gregory. You bought her a house. You were about to buy her an engagement ring. While married to me. His eyes widened. How did you? I know everything. Every single thing. And now you're going to pack a bag and leave. Tonight. This is my house too. Actually, this was my grandmother's house. And according to my attorney, given what you've done, there's a very good chance I'll be keeping it. All of it. But we'll let the courts decide that. For now, you need to leave. I'm not leaving. We need to talk about this. I pulled out my phone. I have a lawyer on speed dial. I can also call the police if you prefer. You have 30 minutes to pack a bag. After that, I'm changing the locks. He stared at me like he'd never seen me before. Maybe he hadn't. Maybe he'd only ever seen what he wanted to see. A convenient wife. A woman who would never question him, never challenge him, never discover his secrets. You're making a mistake, he said, his tone shifting to anger. You're going to regret this. The only thing I regret is wasting 12 years on you. 29 minutes, Gregory. He packed. I watched him go upstairs, listened to him opening drawers and closet doors. He came down 20 minutes later with a suitcase and his laptop bag. At the front door, he turned to me one last time. I'll fight you on this. I'll fight for this house, for my money, for everything. Good, I said. Let's see how that works out for you. After he left, I locked the door, set the alarm, and sat down on my couch. The same couch where Mrs. Patterson had sat 2 weeks ago and changed my life. I picked up my phone and called the locksmith. Then I called Patricia. He knows, I said when she answered. I showed him everything. He left. Good. How are you holding up? I'm angry. I'm hurt. But I'm also ready. Let's end this marriage and make him pay. Consider it done, Mrs. Brooks. Consider it done. The locksmith came at 7 a.m. the next morning. By 8, every lock on every door had been changed. I stood on my front porch with the new keys in my hand, feeling a small measure of control return. Gregory called 17 times that day. I didn't answer. He sent 23 text messages. I didn't read them. He showed up at the house at noon. I didn't open the door. He shouted through the door that this was his house too, that I couldn't just lock him out. I texted him a photo of the restraining order Patricia was filing that afternoon. He left. Patricia moved quickly. Within 3 days, Gregory had been served with divorce papers at his office. She told me later that he went white as a sheet when the process server handed him the folder in front of his colleagues. The papers detailed everything: adultery, financial misconduct, fraud, misappropriation of marital funds. I was asking for the house, my business, half of all assets, and reimbursement for every penny he'd spent on Nicole and the children. He hired a lawyer. Some slick guy named Robert Winters who thought he could intimidate me. He couldn't. What Gregory and his lawyer didn't know was that I wasn't done investigating. Not by a long shot. I went through every file in Gregory's home office. Every receipt, every document, every scrap of paper. I found more bank statements, more evidence of transfers. I found emails he'd printed out, sweet messages between him and Nicole talking about their future together. I photographed everything. I scanned everything. I created a digital archive that would make it impossible for him to hide anything in court. I also did something else. I hired a forensic accountant. Her name was Dr. Beverly Torres, and she specialized in uncovering hidden assets in divorce cases. Most cheating spouses try to hide money, she told me during our first meeting. They think they're clever. They're usually not. Dr. Torres worked magic. Within a week, she found 3 more accounts I didn't know about. Small amounts in each, but together they added up to almost $70,000. Money he'd been squirreling away, probably planning to use it to finally leave me and set up house permanently with Nicole. She also found something interesting. Gregory had been claiming certain business expenses on his taxes that were actually personal expenses for Nicole. Vacations listed as business trips. Gifts listed as client entertainment. The IRS would be very interested in that information. Are you planning to report him? Dr. Torres asked. Not yet. But I'm keeping that option available. While all this was happening, I maintained absolute silence toward Gregory. I didn't respond to his calls, his texts, his emails. I didn't engage when he tried to approach me at the grocery store or waited outside my studio. Patricia handled all communication through lawyers. Every desperate message he sent, every plea for us to talk, every promise that he would do anything to fix this went unanswered. I know the silence drove him crazy. Good. Meanwhile, I focused on my business. I had 3 major projects in progress and I threw myself into them with renewed energy. Work became my therapy. Choosing paint colors, selecting furniture, creating beautiful spaces for clients who appreciated my talent. It reminded me that I had value, that I was good at something, that my worth wasn't tied to being Gregory's wife. My assistant Rachel noticed the change in me. You seem different, she said one afternoon as we reviewed fabric samples. More focused, more, I don't know, determined. I'm getting divorced, I told her. I kept it quiet, but the papers had been filed. People would find out soon enough. Her eyes widened. Oh, Simone. I'm so sorry. Don't be. It's the best decision I've ever made. I told her some of the story. Not all of it, but enough that she understood. What a complete jerk, she said, anger flashing in her eyes. 9 years? 2 kids? That's not a mistake. That's a whole other life. Exactly. Are you okay? Really okay? I thought about that question. Was I okay? My marriage was over. My husband had betrayed me in the worst possible way. I'd wasted 12 years on a man who didn't respect me enough to be faithful. But I was also free. Free to make my own choices. Free to build a life that was truly mine. Free from lies. I'm getting there, I said honestly. 3 weeks after Gregory moved out, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Simone Brooks. A woman's voice, young, uncertain. Yes. This is Nicole Harper. My entire body tensed. How did you get this number? From Gregory's phone. Please don't hang up. I need to talk to you. We have nothing to discuss. Please. Just 5 minutes. I know you must hate me. You have every right to. But there are things you don't understand. Things about Gregory that you need to know. Against my better judgment, I stayed on the line. You have 3 minutes. Gregory told me you two were separated when we met. He said you were living apart, that the divorce was almost final. He showed me apartment listings, said he was looking for a place of his own. I believed him. That's not my problem. I know it's not. But when I found out I was pregnant with Brandon, when I found out he'd lied about being separated, I tried to leave. He begged me not to. He said he loved me, that he was going to leave you, that he just needed time to do it right. I was young and stupid and I believed him. You stayed with him for 9 years, Nicole. You had another child with him. Don't pretend you're a victim here. I'm not. I'm just trying to explain that I never meant to hurt you. I didn't even know you existed for the first 6 months. Is there a point to this call? Silence. Then, Gregory told me you filed for divorce. He told me it's because you found out about us. He's been calling me constantly, saying he needs money, that his lawyer is expensive. He wants me to help pay for his legal fees. I almost laughed. And? I don't have that kind of money. Everything I have, he gave me. The house is in my name, but he paid for it. I don't have savings. I have 2 kids and a job that barely covers groceries. I can't help him fight you even if I wanted to. Again, not my problem. He's getting desperate, Simone. He's talking about selling the house. My house. The house where my children live. He says he needs to liquidate assets to prepare for the divorce settlement. Now she had my attention. He can't sell that house. It's in your name. But he paid for it. His lawyer says that means he has a claim to it. That he can force me to sell it and split the proceeds. This was news to me. I made a mental note to tell Patricia about this development. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because I thought you should know what kind of man he is. I thought when we got together it would be perfect. That we'd finally be a real family. But he's not the man I thought he was. He's not the man he pretended to be with either of us. You're just figuring this out now? I guess I didn't want to see it before. But now, with everything falling apart, I can see it clearly. He's selfish. He's a liar. He used both of us. Nicole, I appreciate the call, I guess. But I don't want a relationship with you. I don't want updates about Gregory. I don't want to bond over how terrible he is. I just want to be done with all of this. I understand. I wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Really sorry. And I wanted to warn you that he's getting desperate. Desperate people do stupid things. After we hung up, I sat with that conversation for a long time. Nicole had sounded genuine, broken even. But I couldn't let myself feel sympathy for her. She had made choices. She had stayed with a married man for 9 years. She had given him 2 children knowing he had a wife. Her consequences were her own to deal with. That evening, I called Patricia and told her about Gregory's plan to sell the Riverside house. He can't do that without a court order, she said. And given that he used marital funds to purchase it, we can argue that you have an interest in that property too. Let him try. It'll just make him look worse. Nicole sounded scared. She said he's getting desperate. He should be scared. We have him dead to rights. The evidence is overwhelming. His lawyer knows it too. I've spoken with Robert Winters. He's already trying to negotiate a settlement because he knows they'll lose in court. I don't want to settle. I know. But I want you to be prepared. Gregory might offer you a deal. He might try to give you some of what you want in exchange for you agreeing not to pursue certain things. Like what? Like reporting his tax fraud to the IRS. Like going after the house in Riverside. Like demanding he pay back every penny he spent on Nicole and the kids. I thought about that. I want him to pay for what he did. And he will. But think about what you really want. Do you want revenge or do you want to move on with your life? Because sometimes the best revenge is taking what you're owed and walking away to build something better. She was right, though I didn't want to admit it. Dragging this out for years, fighting over every detail, it would keep me tied to Gregory and his mess. I'll think about it, I said. Take your time. We're in a strong position. We can afford to be patient. Over the next few days, I did think about it. I thought about what I really wanted. Justice, yes. Compensation for what had been stolen from me, absolutely. But more than that, I wanted freedom. I wanted to be done with Gregory, done with Nicole, done with all of it. I wanted my life back. Better than it had been before. Stronger. Mine. 1 week later, Gregory's lawyer called Patricia with a settlement offer. Gregory would give me the house, my business, 60% of all remaining assets, and he would refinance the second mortgage so I wasn't responsible for that debt. In exchange, I would agree not to pursue the Riverside property, not to demand reimbursement for money spent on Nicole and the children, and not to report the tax issues to the IRS. Patricia presented the offer to me over lunch at an upscale bistro downtown. It's a good offer, she said. Better than good, actually. You'd walk away with the house, your business, and about $800,000 in cash and investments. What does he walk away with? About $500,000, the Riverside house that he'll probably have to sell, and his business that's currently losing clients because word has gotten out about the affair. He's losing clients? Apparently people don't want to work with someone who cheated on his wife for 9 years and has a secret family. Bad for business. I sipped my water thinking. $800,000. The house. My business. Freedom from all of this. What do you think I should do? I asked. Patricia set down her fork and looked at me seriously. I think you should take it. You could fight for more, drag this out for another year, spend a fortune on legal fees and maybe get a bit more. Or you could take this very generous settlement, be done with him and start building your new life now. Today. I want him to suffer. He is suffering. His marriage is over. His reputation is ruined. He's losing his business. He'll be paying child support for 2 kids for the next decade. Trust me, Simone, he's suffering plenty. I thought about that night Mrs. Patterson had knocked on my door. The shock, the devastation, the rage. I thought about the past month of investigation, documentation, preparation. And I thought about the future. About what I could do with $800,000 and complete freedom. About the business I could build, the life I could create. I'll take it, I said. But I want one more thing. What's that? I want it in writing that he never contacts me again. No calls, no texts, no emails, no showing up at my home or business. Complete no contact. If he violates it, the settlement is void and we go back to court for everything. Patricia smiled. I can make that happen. 3 days later, I signed the divorce settlement. Gregory signed it too in a separate room with his lawyer. We never saw each other. Just like that, my 12-year marriage was over. I walked out of the lawyer's office into bright afternoon sunshine. The sky was brilliant blue, the air crisp and clean. I got in my car, drove to my house now, and sat in the driveway for a long moment. Then I called Rachel. Clear my schedule for the rest of the week, I said. Is everything okay? Everything is perfect. I just signed my divorce papers and I'm about to start the next chapter of my life. The Friday evening I confronted Gregory felt like it happened in another lifetime, though it had only been a month ago. I had been so angry, so hurt, so determined to make him feel even a fraction of the pain he'd caused me. Now, standing in my kitchen, final divorce papers on the counter, I felt something different. Not quite peace, not yet. But something close to it. Closure maybe. Or just exhaustion from carrying around so much rage. The house was mine. The papers confirmed it. Gregory had signed over his share, refinanced the second mortgage he'd taken out without my knowledge. I didn't owe him anything. He didn't owe me anything except to stay out of my life forever. I poured myself a glass of wine and walked through each room. Without Gregory's presence, the house felt different. Lighter somehow. The home office where he used to hide was now empty, ready to be transformed into something useful. An expanded studio for my design work, maybe. Or a library. Something that was just mine. My phone buzzed. Rachel. How does it feel to be officially single? She asked. Strange. Good. Weird. All of the above. We're taking you out tonight. No arguments. Drinks, dinner, dancing. You've been working nonstop for a month. Time to celebrate. I don't know if I'm ready for celebrating. You just got rid of a lying, cheating husband and came out on top. If that's not worth celebrating, I don't know what is. She had a point. That night, Rachel picked me up in her red convertible. She'd brought reinforcements. My best friend since college, Tasha, was in the passenger seat and my younger sister Candace was in the back. Divorce party, Tasha announced as I climbed in. Whether you like it or not. They took me to a trendy restaurant downtown, the kind of place Gregory always said was too expensive for just dinner. We ordered too much food, drank too much wine, and laughed until my face hurt. Tell us the truth, Candace said over dessert. How are you really doing? I thought about that. I'm angry, I admitted. Not at what happened exactly. More at the time I wasted. 12 years, Candace. 12 years with someone who was living a completely different life behind my back. But you got out, Tasha said firmly. That's what matters. Some women stay. Some women forgive. You didn't. You stood up for yourself. Mrs. Patterson helped, I said quietly. If she hadn't come to my door, I might still be living that lie. How is she? Rachel asked. Have you heard from her? I shook my head. Not since right after I confronted Gregory. She called to check on me, but I haven't spoken to her since. I know she's dying. I should probably, I don't know, thank her somehow. You don't owe her anything, Candace said. She enabled that affair for 9 years. I know, but she also ended it. She gave me the truth when no one else would. After dinner, they insisted on taking me to a club. The music was too loud, the lights too bright, but something about the energy of the place, the press of people dancing and laughing and living their lives, made me feel alive in a way I hadn't in weeks. We danced. I let myself get lost in the music, in the movement, in the simple joy of being young and free and unattached. Men approached me. I politely declined their offers to buy me drinks. I wasn't ready for that yet. Maybe I never would be. But it felt good to be noticed, to be seen as Simone, not as Gregory's wife. Around midnight my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I stepped outside into the quieter air of the patio to check it. A text message. From Gregory. I know I'm not supposed to contact you. But I need you to know that I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Simone. I never meant to hurt you. I made terrible choices and I lost the best thing that ever happened to me. I just wanted you to know that. I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond, to tell him exactly what I thought of his apology. But that would be engaging and I was done engaging. Instead, I forwarded the message to Patricia with a note. He violated the no contact clause. What are my options? She responded within minutes. I'll send a formal warning to his lawyer. One more violation and we can pursue penalties. Don't respond to him directly. I deleted Gregory's message and went back inside to my friends. Everything okay? Tasha asked. Everything's fine. Gregory being stupid. Patricia's handling it. Forget him, she said, handing me a fresh drink. Tonight is about you. About new beginnings. We stayed out until 2 a.m. When Candace finally dropped me off at home, I was exhausted and happy and more relaxed than I'd been in months. Inside my quiet house, I changed into comfortable clothes and made tea. I sat on my couch, the same couch where this had all started, and thought about how much had changed. A month ago my life had imploded. Tonight I danced with my friends and felt genuinely happy. It wasn't a complete transformation. I still had moments of anger, of grief for the time I'd lost. But I was healing. Slowly, imperfectly, but healing. The next morning I woke up to a voicemail. Mrs. Patterson. Her voice was weaker than I remembered, breathless and strained. Mrs. Brooks, this is Ruth Patterson. I heard the divorce was finalized. I wanted to congratulate you. I know that probably sounds strange, but I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. I also wanted to let you know that I'm in hospice now. The doctors say I have maybe a week left. I was hoping, if you had time, that you might come visit me. I have something I'd like to give you. No pressure. I understand if you don't want to. But I'd like to see you one more time before I go. I listened to the message 3 times. Then I called the hospice facility and asked for visiting hours. That afternoon, I drove across town to Riverside Hospice Center. It was a peaceful place, all soft colors and gentle music, designed to make death less frightening. Mrs. Patterson's room was at the end of a long hallway. I knocked softly and a nurse opened the door. She's awake, the nurse said kindly. But she tires easily. Try not to stay too long. I stepped inside. Mrs. Patterson looked tiny in the hospital bed, her skin almost translucent, her breathing labored. But her eyes lit up when she saw me. You came, she whispered. I got your message. I sat in the chair beside her bed. I wasn't sure you would. I wouldn't have blamed you if you hadn't. How are you feeling? She managed a weak smile. Dying. But I suppose that's to be expected. How are you? The divorce is final. I got the house, my business, most of the assets. Gregory is out of my life. Good. That's good. She reached for my hand with her thin, cold fingers. I'm so glad you found the strength to leave him. So many women don't. You gave me that strength. You gave me the truth. Tears filled her eyes. I should have told you years ago. I'll go to my grave regretting that I didn't. You told me when you were ready. That's what matters. She gestured weakly to the bedside table. There's a box there. For you. I picked up a small wooden jewelry box, beautifully carved with intricate designs. My mother gave me that box when I got married, Mrs. Patterson said. Inside is some jewelry. Nothing expensive, but some pieces have been in my family for generations. I want you to have them. Mrs. Patterson, I can't. Please. I have no one else to give them to. Nicole. Nicole made her choices. She'll be fine. But you remind me of who I was when I was young. Strong. Independent. Unwilling to settle for less than you deserve. Take them. Please. I opened the box. Inside were several pieces. A pearl necklace. A silver bracelet. A pair of earrings with small sapphires. They're beautiful, I said honestly. There's also something else in there. An envelope. I found it tucked beneath the jewelry. Inside was a check for $10,000. Mrs. Patterson, this is too much. It's nothing compared to what you lost. But it's all I have to give. Use it for something good. Something that makes you happy. I didn't know what to say. This woman, who owed me nothing, who had enabled my husband's affair for years, was giving me her family heirlooms and her life savings. Why? I asked. Why are you doing this? Because you deserved better than what happened to you. Because I helped Gregory hurt you by staying silent. And because in another life I think you and I could have been friends. You have a strength I always admired but never possessed. We sat together for a while longer, not saying much. Just being present. When the nurse came to tell me visiting hours were over, I stood to leave. Thank you, I said. For everything. For telling me the truth. For this gift. For caring. Live a good life, Simone Brooks. A full life. Don't let what Gregory did make you bitter or afraid to trust again. You have so much living ahead of you. I will. I promise. I never saw her again. 3 days later, Candace called to tell me she'd seen the obituary in the newspaper. Ruth Marie Patterson, age 68, had passed away peacefully at Riverside Hospice. The funeral was small. I stood in the back, not wanting to intrude. Nicole was there with her 2 children, both dressed in dark colors, looking lost and scared. Gregory stood beside her, his hand on her shoulder. They looked like what they were. A broken family built on lies, facing an uncertain future. I didn't stay for the reception. I'd paid my respects. That was enough. That evening, I put on the pearl necklace from Mrs. Patterson's jewelry box. I looked at myself in the mirror, and for the first time in months I liked what I saw. Not Gregory's wife. Not someone's victim. Just Simone. Strong, successful, free. I used the $10,000 to expand my design studio. New equipment, new software, a website redesign. I was building something. Something that was entirely mine. And slowly, day by day, I was becoming someone I was proud to be. Gregory's text message wasn't the last time he tried to contact me. Despite Patricia's formal warning to his lawyer, despite the no-contact clause in our divorce settlement, he found ways to reach out. He sent letters to my studio. Long, rambling apologies that promised he had changed, that he realized what he'd lost, that he would spend the rest of his life making it up to me if I'd just give him another chance. I forwarded every letter to Patricia unopened. He sent flowers to my house. Expensive arrangements with cards that said things like, "I'll always love you," and "You're the only one who matters." I donated the flowers to the local hospital and sent Patricia photos of the cards. He created new email addresses when I blocked the old ones. He sent messages saying he'd made the biggest mistake of his life, that Nicole meant nothing to him, that their relationship was over. I set up filters to send anything from him directly to spam. The most pathetic attempt came on what would have been our 13th wedding anniversary. He showed up at my house at 7 a.m. with coffee and bagels, the breakfast we used to share every Sunday morning. I didn't answer the door. I called the police instead. The officer who responded was a woman in her 40s with tired eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. "Ma'am, is this man threatening you?" she asked. "Not physically. But we have a court order that says he's not allowed to contact me. He keeps violating it." She walked over to Gregory, who was still standing on my porch with his coffee and bagels, looking like a kicked puppy. "Sir, I need you to leave this property. Now. I just want to talk to my wife." "Ex-wife," I called from behind the screen door. "Sir, you have a no-contact order. You're in violation. Leave now or I'll have to arrest you for harassment." Gregory finally left, but not before shooting me a look that was equal parts hurt and anger. Like I was the one being unreasonable. Like I was the one who had destroyed our marriage. After the police officer left, I made myself breakfast and tried not to let Gregory's desperation get to me. But it was hard. Part of me, a small, stupid part, felt guilty. He looked so broken, so genuinely sorry. Then I remembered the 9 years of lies. The 2 children he'd hidden from me. The $1 million of our money he'd spent on another woman. The engagement ring he'd been planning to buy Nicole while still married to me. The guilt disappeared. That afternoon, Nicole called me. Again. "Please stop giving my number to people," I said as soon as I answered. "I got it from Gregory's phone again. I'm sorry. But I need to talk to you. Nicole, I told you. We have nothing to discuss. Gregory is losing it. He's been calling me constantly, crying, saying he made a mistake. He wants to get back together with you. That's between you and him." "No, it's not. Because he told me that if you won't take him back, then he wants to try to make things work with me and the kids. He's using me as a backup plan, Simone. Just like he always has. And you're just figuring this out now?" Silence. Then, I told him we're done. I told him I don't want to be with someone who's clearly in love with someone else. Someone who only comes to me when you won't have him. "Good for you." He got angry. Really angry. He said I was being ungrateful, that he's given me everything that I owe him. "You scared me, Simone." He's never talked to me like that before. I sat up straighter. Did he threaten you? Not exactly. But the way he looked at me? I don't know. I've never seen him like that. I thought you should know. In case he tries something with you. If he threatens you, call the police. Don't wait, don't try to handle it yourself. Just call them. Okay. I will. She paused. I know you don't want my apologies or my explanations. But I am sorry. For all of it. You didn't deserve what we did to you. After we hung up, I called Patricia. Gregory's getting more unstable, I told her. Nicole called and said he's acting strange. Angry. I'm worried he might do something stupid. Has he threatened you directly? No. But he showed up at my house this morning. I had to call the police. Good. That's a second violation of the no contact order. I'm going to file for a formal restraining order. It'll have more teeth than the clause in the divorce settlement. Do you think he's dangerous? Patricia was quiet for a moment. Honestly, I think he's desperate and humiliated. His life has fallen apart. His wife left him, his mistress left him, he's losing his business. Men like Gregory don't handle that well. They lash out. Great. Be careful, Simone. Vary your routine. Don't go places alone if you can help it. And if he contacts you again, call the police immediately. Don't try to handle it yourself. That conversation left me unsettled. I'd been so focused on moving forward, on building my new life, that I hadn't considered Gregory might actually become a problem. I told Candace, who immediately insisted on staying with me for a while. You're not dealing with this alone, she said, showing up that evening with a suitcase. I'll stay until he calms down or until the restraining order goes through. Whichever comes first. Having my sister there helped. The house felt less empty, less vulnerable. We fell into an easy routine. Candace worked from home during the day while I went to client meetings. In the evenings we cooked dinner together, watched movies, talked about everything except Gregory. How's the business going? She asked one night over pasta. Really well, actually. I landed 2 major contracts this month. One's a full house renovation, the other is a boutique hotel redesign. That's amazing. I'm so proud of you. Thanks. Feels good to focus on work. To have something that's entirely mine. Have you thought about dating yet? I nearly choked on my wine. Dating? Are you serious? My divorce was finalized 3 weeks ago. I know. I'm not saying you should jump into anything. But at some point you're going to want companionship again. I just want you to know that when you're ready, it's okay to be open to it. Right now, the only thing I'm open to is growing my business and enjoying my freedom. Fair enough. The restraining order was granted 2 days later. Gregory wasn't allowed within 500 feet of me, my home, or my business. He wasn't allowed to contact me through any means, including third parties. Patricia thought that would be the end of it. I wasn't so sure. I was right. A week after the restraining order went into effect, I got a call from my bank. Mrs. Brooks, this is Sandra from First National. I'm calling because there's been some unusual activity on your accounts. My stomach dropped. What kind of activity? Someone attempted to access your accounts using your social security number and personal information. Our security system flagged it as suspicious and blocked the attempt. But I wanted to alert you immediately. When did this happen? About an hour ago. The attempt came from an IP address in this city. Do you know anyone who might have access to your personal information? My ex-husband, I said grimly. We just got divorced. I see. I'm going to recommend you change all your passwords immediately and set up 2-factor authentication on all your accounts. I'm also filing a fraud report. After I hung up, I called Patricia. He tried to access my bank accounts. When? This morning. The bank blocked it, but Patricia, he's escalating. This is criminal activity. You need to file a police report. Now. I did. The officer who took my report was sympathetic but realistic. Without proof that it was specifically your ex-husband, there's not much we can do. But we'll open an investigation. In the meantime, I'd recommend changing all your passwords, monitoring your credit, and staying vigilant. That night, I changed every password I had. Email, bank accounts, credit cards, social media, everything. I set up alerts on my credit report. I felt like I was under siege in my own life. This is insane, Candace said, watching me work through my laptop. He can't just accept that it's over? Apparently not. What's his endgame here? What does he think is going to happen? That you'll just forgive him and take him back? I don't know what he's thinking. I don't think he knows what he's thinking. The harassment continued in smaller ways. Gregory would drive slowly past my house late at night. I installed security cameras and caught him on video. He'd wait outside my studio, sitting in his car across the street, just watching. My assistant started walking me to my car every evening. He sent gifts to my clients, trying to sabotage my business relationships. Flowers with cards that said things like, "From Simone's loving husband, sorry for any inconvenience." I had to call each client and explain the situation, humiliating myself over and over. Patricia filed more formal complaints. The police issued warnings. But short of Gregory making an explicit threat, there wasn't much anyone could do. "This is what abusers do," my therapist told me during one of our sessions. I'd started seeing her a month after the divorce, needing someone professional to help me process everything. They can't handle losing control, so they try to maintain it in whatever ways they can. The good news is this usually burns out. He'll eventually realize it's not working and move on. And if he doesn't, then we escalate. But most of the time they give up. They find someone new to focus on. I hope she was right. Meanwhile, I refused to let Gregory's behavior control my life. I went to work every day. I met with clients. I designed beautiful spaces. I had lunch with friends. I took a weekend trip to the mountains with Candace. I was determined not to be a victim. Not to let him see me scared or weak. But at night, alone in my bed, I sometimes felt the fear creep in. What if he didn't stop? What if he got worse? What if his desperation turned into something more dangerous? Then I'd remember Mrs. Patterson's words, "Live a good life, Simone Brooks. A full life. Don't let what Gregory did make you bitter or afraid." I was trying. Every day I was trying. The turning point came from an unexpected source. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, Gregory's business partner, a man named Daniel Robertson, called me out of the blue. "Mrs. Brooks, you don't know me, but I need to talk to you about Gregory. I can't talk about my ex-husband. We have a court order." "I understand. But this isn't about your relationship. It's about the business. I think Gregory has been embezzling from our company, and I need your help to prove it." That got my attention. We met at a coffee shop the next day. Daniel was in his 50s, distinguished looking, clearly stressed. "Gregory and I started the consulting firm 8 years ago," he explained. "We've always been 50-50 partners. But about 6 months ago, I started noticing discrepancies in the books. Money going out that I couldn't account for. When I asked Gregory about it, he got defensive, said I was questioning his integrity. How much money are we talking about? Over the past 3 years? Close to $200,000. I let out a low whistle. I hired a forensic accountant to go through everything. She found systematic transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. When I confronted Gregory last week, he admitted he'd been taking money from the business. He said it was to support his other family, that he'd been desperate. Why are you telling me this? Because my lawyer says that if Gregory was using marital funds and business funds interchangeably, you might have information that could help my case. You went through a divorce. I'm assuming you had investigators, accountants looking into his finances. I thought about Dr. Beverly Torres and all the work she'd done uncovering Gregory's hidden accounts. I might be able to help, I said carefully. But I'll need to talk to my lawyer first. Patricia was thrilled when I told her. This is perfect. If Gregory's business partner is going after him for embezzlement, that's criminal. It's not just civil court anymore. Can I share our financial information with Daniel's lawyer? Absolutely. In fact, I think you should. The more trouble Gregory faces, the less time he'll have to harass you. I met with Daniel's lawyer and provided copies of everything Dr. Torres had found. Bank statements showing transfers from business accounts to personal accounts. Credit card statements showing business expenses that were actually personal purchases for Nicole and the children. 2 weeks later, Daniel filed a lawsuit against Gregory for embezzlement and breach of fiduciary duty. He was asking for the $200,000 plus damages. Gregory's world started crumbling faster after that. His remaining clients started leaving when news of the lawsuit became public. No one wanted to work with a consultant who was being sued for stealing from his own business partner. He had to sell the house in Riverside to pay his mounting legal bills. Nicole and the children moved into a small apartment in a less expensive part of town. His lawyer withdrew from representing him, citing irreconcilable differences, which usually meant the client couldn't pay. Gregory tried to represent himself in Daniel's lawsuit. It went exactly as you'd expect. He was disorganized, emotional, unable to mount a coherent defense. The judge ruled against him within 3 months. He owed Daniel $200,000 plus legal fees. He didn't have it. Daniel's lawyer seized Gregory's business assets. His share of the consulting firm, his office equipment, everything. The business that Gregory had spent years building was gone. I heard all of this through the grapevine. Rachel had a friend who knew someone who knew Daniel. The small world of our city meant information traveled fast. He's basically broke now, Rachel told me over lunch one day. Living in a studio apartment, working some low-level sales job. It's kinda sad actually. I didn't feel sad. I felt relieved. With no money and no business, Gregory couldn't afford to keep harassing me. The late-night drive-bys stopped. The gifts stopped. The attempts to contact me stopped. He was too busy trying to survive to worry about winning me back. Nicole, meanwhile, was struggling in her own way. I heard through the same grapevine that she'd taken Gregory to court for child support. He was ordered to pay, but he didn't have the money. She was working 2 jobs to support Brandon and Sophie, barely making ends meet. Part of me felt a tiny bit of sympathy for her. But only a tiny bit. She'd made her choices. 6 months after the divorce, I ran into an old friend at a gallery opening. Christine had been in my wedding, but we'd drifted apart over the years. Simone, I heard about the divorce. I'm so sorry. Don't be. Best thing that ever happened to me. She looked surprised. Really? Really? Come on, let me show you around. I actually designed this space. The gallery was one of my recent projects. Clean lines, perfect lighting, minimal but impactful. One of my best works. As we walked through the space, Christine asked, "So what's next for you? Dating? Traveling? What does life after Gregory look like?" Right now, it looks like work. I'm opening a second location of my design studio. Taking on bigger projects. Building something real. That sounds amazing. It is. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm in control of my own life. I make my own decisions. I spend my money how I want. I don't have to answer to anyone. You seem happy. Actually happy. I am, I said, realizing it was true. I really am. That night, I went home to my house, my beautiful house that was entirely mine, and poured myself a glass of wine. I sat on my back deck looking at the stars and thought about how far I'd come. A year ago, I'd been living a lie, married to a man who was living a double life. I'd been comfortable but not happy. Settled but not satisfied. Now I was divorced, financially secure, professionally successful, and genuinely content. Gregory had tried to destroy me. He'd stolen from me, lied to me, betrayed me in the worst possible way. But I'd survived. More than survived. I'd thrived. I'd taken everything he tried to hide and turned it into my advantage. I'd used the settlement money to expand my business. I'd used the pain to fuel my ambition. I'd used the anger to set boundaries and demand respect. And now, while Gregory struggled to pay rent on a studio apartment, while he worked a job he hated for a fraction of what he used to make, while he faced the consequences of his choices, I was here. Free. Happy. Victorious. The next morning, I got an email from a major design magazine. They wanted to feature me in an article about up-and-coming interior designers in the region. I said yes. 2 weeks later, a photographer came to my studio. They took pictures of me in my workspace, surrounded by fabric samples and paint chips and design sketches. They photographed some of my completed projects. The interviewer asked me about my design philosophy, my inspiration, my vision for the future. I believe spaces should reflect the people who inhabit them, I said. They should be authentic, beautiful, and entirely their own. No compromises. No settling for less than you deserve. That's a powerful philosophy. It's how I live my life now. In every aspect. The article came out a month later. A 4-page spread with beautiful photos and a glowing write-up of my work. The magazine called me a rising star in the design world and a talent to watch. Orders flooded in. Clients from across the state, some from out of state, reaching out for consultations. My calendar filled up for months in advance. I hired 2 new assistants to help handle the workload. I started looking at commercial real estate for my second location. Everything was falling into place. One evening, as I was locking up my studio, I saw a familiar car across the street. Gregory's old sedan, the one he'd driven before all this started. He got out and walked toward me. I immediately pulled out my phone, ready to call the police. "Wait," he said, holding up his hands. "Please. I'm not here to harass you. I wanted to tell you something. You're violating the restraining order." "I know. And after this, I'll leave you alone forever. I promise. I just need to say this once." Against my better judgment, I waited. But I kept my finger on the call button. "You won," he said simply. "You completely won. I lost everything. My business, my money, my reputation. Nicole wants nothing to do with me. My kids barely know me. I'm working retail at a department store, Simone. Me. Can you believe that? What do you want? Sympathy? No. I want you to know that you were right. About everything. I was a terrible husband. I made unforgivable choices. I hurt you in ways I can't even fully comprehend. And now I'm paying for it. Every single day I'm paying for it. Good. He flinched. I deserve that. I deserve all of this. I just wanted you to know that I understand now. I understand what I lost. Not just the money or the business. I lost you. And you were the best thing in my life, and I was too stupid and selfish to see it until it was too late. Is that all? That's all. I'll leave you alone now. For real this time. I'm sorry, Simone. I'm so sorry. He walked back to his car and drove away. I stood there for a long time, processing what had just happened. Then I got in my car and drove home. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt done. Done with Gregory. Done with the anger. Done with the whole situation. I called Patricia and reported the restraining order violation, but I also told her I didn't want to pursue charges. Are you sure? She asked. I'm sure. He's already lost everything. I don't need to take anything else from him. I just need him to stay away. Okay. I'll send a final warning to him. But Simone, if he contacts you again. I know. I'll call the police. But I don't think he will. He looked broken. That night I finally let myself cry. Not for Gregory. Not for my marriage. But for the years I'd lost, the trust that had been shattered, the innocence I'd never get back. And then, when the tears stopped, I washed my face, made myself tea, and opened my laptop. I had work to do. A business to build. A life to live. And nothing, absolutely nothing, was going to stop me. I didn't seek out information about Gregory after that night in the parking lot. But in a city this size, news travels. Especially when someone falls as far and as publicly as he did. Rachel's friend who knew Daniel kept me updated whether I wanted to hear it or not. Gregory's working at that department store in the mall, she mentioned one day while we reviewed fabric samples. The one that's always having sales. I don't need to know this, I said. I know. But I thought you'd want to know he's not going to be a problem anymore. He's barely making enough to pay child support. I focused on the fabric swatches in front of me. Forest green or deep burgundy for the hotel lobby chairs. 3 months later, more news. Nicole left him, Rachel said. Took the kids and moved to Colorado. Her sister lives there. Gregory doesn't even have visitation because he can't afford to travel. Rachel. I know. You don't want to hear it. But come on, doesn't it feel good to know that karma actually works sometimes? I selected the burgundy fabric. What feels good is landing the hotel contract and doing excellent work. Gregory's life is not my concern. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel a small sense of satisfaction. Not happiness at his suffering exactly. More like relief that justice had been served. 6 months after that, Candace called me. You'll never guess who I saw today. I probably don't want to know. Gregory. At the grocery store. He was buying the cheapest versions of everything, checking his phone calculator before putting things in his cart. He looked terrible, Simone. Gray hair, wrinkled clothes like he'd aged 20 years. Candace. I'm just saying. The universe handled him for you. You didn't even have to do anything. She was right. I hadn't done anything except protect myself and take what was rightfully mine. The rest, Gregory had done to himself. His business partner's lawsuit had destroyed his professional reputation. His affair had destroyed his personal relationships. His financial crimes had destroyed his stability. I'd simply walked away and built something better. My second studio location opened on a bright Saturday morning in May. The space was beautiful, all windows and light, 3 times the size of my original studio. I designed it myself, every detail perfect. Local press came to the opening. That article in the design magazine had raised my profile, and now people were interested in my story. Not the divorce, thankfully. They didn't know about that. They were interested in the businesswoman who'd built a successful firm from the ground up. What's your secret? A reporter asked me. No secret. Just hard work, good taste, and refusing to settle for less than excellent. Any advice for aspiring designers? Trust yourself. Don't let anyone tell you what you should want or who you should be. Build the life and career that makes you happy, not the one that makes other people comfortable. The reporter scribbled notes. That sounds like it comes from personal experience. It does. I spent too many years making myself smaller to fit into someone else's vision. Never again. That evening, after all the guests had left and the press had gone home, I stood alone in my new studio and felt a wave of pure contentment wash over me. This was mine. All of it. My vision, my work, my success. No one could take it from me. No one could diminish it. No one could claim they'd helped me build it. It was entirely, completely, proudly mine. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Miss Brooks? This is Attorney Jennifer Walsh. I'm handling the estate of Ruth Patterson. My breath caught. Yes. I'm calling because Mrs. Patterson left specific instructions in her will regarding you. She wanted me to contact you 6 months after her passing. It's been just over 6 months now. Okay. Mrs. Patterson left you a letter. She asked that I read it to you over the phone if you're willing to hear it. I sat down on one of the display couches. I'm willing. Papers rustled. Then Attorney Walsh began to read in a professional, measured tone. Dear Simone Brooks, if you're hearing this letter, I've been gone for 6 months. I hope that's been enough time for you to heal, to move forward, to build the life you deserve. I've thought about you often in these last weeks. Wondered if you'd hate me forever for enabling Gregory's deception for so long. Wondered if the truth I gave you was a gift or a burden. I want you to know that watching you handle your divorce with such strength and dignity has been one of the bright spots in these dark final months. You didn't crumble. You didn't beg him to stay. You stood up for yourself and demanded better. That takes courage that most people don't possess. I also want you to know that I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry for my role in your pain. I should have told you years ago. I should have forced Nicole to end the affair or told you myself. I let my fear and my love for my grandchildren keep me silent, and that was wrong. I hope you can forgive me. Not for my sake, I'll be gone when you hear this. But for your own sake. Carrying anger and resentment only hurts the person carrying it. Let it go. Let all of it go. Focus on the beautiful life you're building. I've already given you my mother's jewelry and some money. But there's one more thing I want you to have. In my safe deposit box at First National Bank, there's an envelope with your name on it. Inside you'll find the deed to a small property I own in the mountains. A cabin on 2 acres. It's not much, but it's peaceful. I used to go there when I needed to think, to escape, to breathe. I want you to have it. Use it as a retreat. Sell it if you need the money. Do whatever you want with it. It's yours, free and clear. Think of it as my final apology and my parting gift to a woman I wish I'd known better and treated better. Live well, Simone Brooks. Live fully. And don't waste another moment of your precious life on people who don't deserve you. With respect and regret, Ruth Patterson. I sat in silence for a long moment after Attorney Walsh finished reading. Miss Brooks? Are you still there? Yes, I'm here. Mrs. Patterson's safe deposit box key is being held at First National. I can arrange for you to access it whenever you're ready. Thank you. I'll call them next week. After we hung up, I sat in my empty studio as evening light faded outside the windows. A cabin in the mountains. A final gift from a dying woman who'd felt guilty for her silence. I thought about Mrs. Patterson, frail and weak in her hospice bed, giving me her jewelry and her money, telling me to live a good life. She'd been dying while I was fighting for my divorce. Dying while Gregory was harassing me and Nicole was calling me. Dying while her whole family fell apart because of the secrets that had finally come to light. And with her last bit of strength, she tried to make amends. I did go to the bank the following week. The safe deposit box contained exactly what Attorney Walsh had described. A deed to a property in the mountains 2 hours north of the city. And a set of keys. That weekend I drove up to see it. The cabin was small but charming. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a cozy living room with a stone fireplace. The 2 acres were heavily wooded, peaceful, private. A small stream ran through the back of the property. I stood on the porch and breathed in clean mountain air. No noise except birds and wind in the trees. No stress except what I brought with me. No pressure except what I put on myself. It was perfect. I decided to keep it. Not as an investment but as a retreat. A place to go when the city got too loud, when work got too stressful, when I needed to remember who I was and what I'd survived. Over the next few months, I spent weekends fixing it up. New paint, new furniture, small renovations. I turned it into another showcase of my design work, rustic but elegant, comfortable but sophisticated. I started going there once a month. Sometimes I brought work. Sometimes I brought books. Sometimes I just brought myself in the silence. It became my sanctuary. Meanwhile, back in the city, my business continued to grow. I hired more staff. Took on bigger projects, got written up in more magazines, became known as one of the top designers in the region. People would ask me how I'd built such a successful business so quickly. I'd smile and say hard work and determination. I didn't tell them about the divorce settlement that had funded my expansion. I didn't tell them about the betrayal that had fueled my ambition. That was my story and I didn't owe it to anyone. 1 year after Mrs. Patterson's death, I got a letter in the mail. From Nicole. I almost threw it away without reading it, but curiosity got the better of me. The letter was short. Dear Simone, I don't expect you to read this, but I needed to write it anyway. I'm in Colorado now with Brandon and Sophie. We're doing okay. Not great, but okay. I got a job as a hotel manager. The kids are in public school. We're building a life that's honest and real, even if it's harder than what we had before. I wanted you to know that I'm sorry. I know I've said it before, but I mean it more now than I did then. I understand better now what I took from you. Not just your husband or your money, but your trust. Your sense of security. Years of your life that you can never get back. I was young and stupid and selfish. I believed Gregory's lies because I wanted to believe them. I let myself think that what we had was love when it was really just deception and convenience. My mother's death changed me. Reading her letter to you, hearing about the gift she left you, made me realize how much damage I'd caused. Not just to you, but to everyone involved, including my own children. Brandon asks about his dad sometimes. I don't know what to tell him. The truth is too complicated for an 8-year-old. But I don't want to lie to him the way I've lied about so many things. I'm trying to be better. Trying to teach my kids about honesty and integrity and treating people with respect. Trying to be the kind of person my mother hoped I could be. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect a response. I just wanted you to know that I think about you sometimes. I hope you're happy. I hope you built a good life. You deserve that. Nicole. I read the letter twice, then put it in a drawer with all the other documents from this chapter of my life. Letters from Gregory. Court papers. Settlement agreements. All of it filed away, part of my history but not my present. I didn't respond to Nicole. What would I say? I didn't forgive her. I wasn't sure I ever would. But I also didn't hate her anymore. I'd moved past anger into something closer to indifference. She was a chapter I'd closed. Gregory was a chapter I'd closed. All of it was behind me now. Ahead was just possibility. Just potential. Just the life I was building, one choice at a time. And that felt like the sweetest victory of all. 2 years after my divorce, my life looked completely different. My design firm had 2 locations and 12 employees. We'd been featured in 5 national magazines. I'd spoken at 3 industry conferences. I had a waiting list of clients that stretched for months. I'd also started teaching part-time at the local design school. 1 class a semester, sharing what I'd learned with students who reminded me of myself at that age. Ambitious, talented, hungry for success. Don't let anyone make you feel like you need to choose between career and personal life, I told my students one evening. Build the life you want first. Everything else will follow. A young woman in the front row raised her hand. But what if what we want changes? What if we build something and then realize it's not right? Then you rebuild. That's the beauty of it. Nothing is permanent. You're allowed to change your mind, change directions, change your entire life if that's what you need. Just make sure you're making choices for yourself, not for someone else. After class, the same student approached me. Can I ask you something personal? You can ask. I might not answer. You don't wear a wedding ring. Are you divorced? I am. Do you regret it? I thought about that question. Did I regret divorcing Gregory? Did I regret the 12 years I'd spent with him? Did I regret any of it? I regret the time I wasted on someone who didn't value me, I said honestly. But I don't regret leaving. That was the best decision I ever made. How did you know it was time? Someone showed me the truth. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. I had to choose between living a comfortable lie or facing an uncomfortable truth. I chose truth. It was hard. It hurt. But it set me free. The student nodded thoughtfully. Thank you. For being honest. Good luck with your final project. Outside, the evening was mild and pleasant. I walked to my car enjoying the spring air. My phone buzzed with a text from Tasha. Wine night at my place. You coming? Absolutely. Be there in 30. Wine nights with my friends had become a regular thing. Once a week, we'd gather at someone's house, drink wine, eat good food, and talk about everything and nothing. That night, the conversation turned to relationships. So, Simone, Tasha said, refilling my glass. It's been 2 years. Have you thought about dating? I've been getting this question a lot lately. From friends, from family, even from clients who wanted to set me up with their sons or brothers or divorced friends. I've thought about it, I admit it, and I'm not opposed to the idea. But I'm also not actively looking. Something happens, great. If not, I'm perfectly happy on my own. You need to get out there, Rachel insisted. Put yourself on a dating app. Let us set you up. Something. What? So I can waste time on awkward dinners with men who aren't right for me? I'm good, thanks. But don't you want companionship? Candace asked. Someone to share your life with? I have people to share my life with. You all. My family. My students. My clients. I'm not lonely, Candace. I'm content. And I was genuinely content in a way I'd never been when I was married. I had work I loved, friends who supported me, family who cared about me, and complete freedom to live my life however I chose. Did I sometimes wish I had someone to share dinner with? Sure. Did I occasionally feel lonely in my big house? Sometimes. But those moments were rare and fleeting, nothing compared to the constant underlying dissatisfaction I'd felt with Gregory. That said, I wasn't completely closed off to the possibility of meeting someone. I went on a few dates, mostly setups through friends. Nice men, successful, interesting. But there was never that spark, that connection that made me want to pursue anything further. And that was okay. I wasn't desperate. I wasn't settling. I was just living my life and seeing what happened. In June, I traveled to Paris for an international design conference. It was my first trip to Europe, and I was determined to enjoy every moment. The conference was incredible. 3 days of workshops, networking events, and presentations from the best designers in the world. I learned new techniques, made valuable connections, and felt inspired in ways I hadn't in years. On the last evening, there was a gala dinner at a beautiful hotel overlooking the Seine. I wore a deep blue dress, elegant and understated, and felt genuinely beautiful for the first time in a long time. At dinner, I sat next to a designer from London named Andrew Morrison. We talked about our approaches to design, our philosophies, our challenges. You're very passionate about your work, he observed. It's more than work to me. It's how I express myself. How I make sense of the world. I understand that completely. We talked for hours long after dinner ended, sitting on the hotel terrace with wine and the lights of Paris spread out before us. Would you like to have dinner tomorrow? He asked as the evening wound down. I know the conference is over, but I'm staying in Paris a few extra days. I'd love to continue this conversation. I hesitated, then thought, why not? I'd like that. We had dinner the next night at a small bistro in the Latin Quarter, and the night after that at a restaurant on the left bank. By the third night, we were walking along the Seine talking about everything except design. I was married once, Andrew told me. It ended badly. She left me for someone else. I know that feeling. My ex-husband had an entire secret family. That's terrible. It was. But it also freed me. I built something better after he left. I can see that. You seem very complete. Like you don't need anyone else to feel whole. I don't. But that doesn't mean I don't enjoy good company. He smiled. Is that what I am? Good company? The best I've had in a long time. Nothing happened in Paris beyond dinners and conversations and one perfect kiss on a bridge at midnight. But we exchanged numbers, promised to stay in touch. And we did. Texts at first, then phone calls, then video chats. He came to visit me in July and I showed him my city, my studios, my mountain cabin. You've built an impressive life, he said as we sat on the cabin porch watching sunset. I've built my life. That's what makes it impressive. Would there be room in your impressive life for someone else? Hypothetically speaking. I thought about that. Maybe. If they understood that I won't make myself smaller to fit into their vision. If they respected my independence and my work. If they added to my life instead of taking from it. That seems reasonable. Most men find it intimidating. I'm not most men. We dated long distance for 6 months. He'd fly to the States for a week, I'd fly to London for a weekend. We talked every day, supported each other's work, built something slowly and carefully. It wasn't like my relationship with Gregory had been. There was no rush, no pressure, no need to define things or make commitments. We were just two people who enjoyed each other's company and saw where it went. In December, he asked if I'd consider spending Christmas in London with him. I've never spent Christmas away from family, I said. Then don't. Tell them no. I'll understand. But I thought about it. Thought about how my life had changed, how I'd grown, how I'd learned to put myself first. Actually, I'd love to. Let me talk to my family. Candace was supportive. Go. Have an adventure. We'll celebrate when you get back. My mother was less enthusiastic. You're choosing a man you barely know over your family? Mom, I'm choosing an experience I want to have. There will be other Christmases. But Simone. I love you. I'll miss you. But I'm going to London. And I did. I spent 2 weeks in London with Andrew. We went to museums and theaters and walked through winter markets. We cooked dinner together in his flat and watched old movies and talked about the future without pressure or expectations. It was lovely, easy, comfortable in a way relationships should be. When I flew home in January, I felt refreshed and happy. And when Andrew said he was thinking about opening a design office in New York, just 2 hours from my city, I encouraged him. Only if it makes sense for your business, I said. Don't do it for me. I'm doing it for me. But I won't lie and say seeing you more often isn't a huge benefit. By spring, he'd opened his New York office. We saw each other most weekends. Sometimes he came to me, sometimes I went to him. We worked on a few projects together, combining our different styles into something unique and beautiful. My friends approved. He's good for you, Tasha said after meeting him. He doesn't try to change you or compete with you. He just compliments you. I know. It's nice. Are you in love with him? I thought about that. I care about him deeply. I enjoy his company. I respect his work. Is that love? Maybe. But it's different from what I felt with Gregory. It's quieter, steadier, less desperate. That sounds healthy. It is, I think. I'm learning what healthy relationships look like, and it turns out they're nothing like what I had before. That summer, I was invited to give a keynote speech at a national design conference. Me, Simone Brooks, former betrayed wife, now successful businesswoman, speaking to hundreds of professionals about building a career in a competitive industry. I accepted. The speech was terrifying and exhilarating. I talked about finding your voice, trusting your vision, and not letting others define your worth. I talked about failure and resilience and the courage it takes to start over. I didn't mention Gregory by name. But I did say, sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is losing something you thought you needed. Because it forces you to discover what you actually want. The speech got a standing ovation. Afterwards, dozens of people came up to me. Some wanted to offer jobs. Some wanted to collaborate. Some just wanted to say thank you for the inspiration. One woman, probably in her 50s, grabbed my hand. I've been in a bad marriage for 20 years, she whispered. Listening to you talk about starting over, it gave me hope. Thank you. You can do it, I told her. Whatever you need to do to be happy, you can do it. I promise. That night, lying in my hotel room, I thought about how far I'd come. From the woman who opened her door to Mrs. Patterson 2 years ago to the woman who just inspired hundreds of people with her story. I lost so much. A husband, a marriage, years of my life, money, trust. But I'd gained so much more. Confidence, independence, success, purpose, and the absolute certainty that I could survive anything. I texted Andrew. The speech went well. Wish you could have been here. He responded immediately. I'm so proud of you. Can't wait to hear all about it. I fell asleep smiling, dreaming of the future I was still building, still creating, still shaping into exactly what I wanted it to be. It was a Tuesday morning in October when I got the call from attorney Jennifer Walsh again. Ms. Brooks, I hope I'm not disturbing you. Not at all. What can I do for you? There's been a development regarding Mrs. Patterson's estate. Something I wasn't aware of until now. Are you available to meet this week? We met at her office 2 days later. She handed me another envelope, this one sealed with wax. Mrs. Patterson left specific instructions that this letter should only be given to you if certain conditions were met. Those conditions have now been satisfied. What conditions? That 2 years had passed since her death, and that you had not contacted Nicole Harper or Gregory Brooks during that time. My office has been monitoring the situation discreetly. Since you've maintained complete separation from both of them, Mrs. Patterson wanted you to have this final letter. I broke the wax seal and pulled out several handwritten pages. My dear Simone, it began. If you're reading this, it means you've stayed strong. You haven't gone back to Gregory. You haven't forgiven Nicole. You haven't let guilt or loneliness or societal pressure convince you to reconcile with people who hurt you. Good. That shows the strength of character I always believed you possessed. I'm writing this letter in my final weeks, knowing I won't be here to see how your story ends. But I want to give you something that I hope will help you write your own ending. Not the ending others expect or want for you, but the one you deserve. In this envelope, you'll find information about another property I owned. A small house in Charleston, South Carolina. It's a rental property, currently generating about $2,000 a month in income. I'm leaving it to you. But there's a catch. You can't sell it for 5 years from the date of my death. During those 5 years, the rental income goes to you. After 5 years, you can sell it or keep it. The choice will be yours. Why 5 years? Because I want to ensure you have a stable income stream separate from your business, separate from any relationship, separate from everything except your own strength and wisdom. I want you to know that no matter what happens, you'll have this. Security, independence, options. I'm also leaving you all my books. I was a voracious reader, as you may have noticed from our brief time together. I have first editions, rare copies, beautiful collections. I want you to have them. Build a library in that mountain cabin. Surround yourself with stories of strong women who survived, who thrived, who refused to be diminished. Finally, I want to tell you something I didn't have the courage to say when I was alive. You remind me of who I could have been if I'd had more courage. I spent my life enabling others, making excuses, keeping peace. I never stood up for myself the way you stood up for you. When I married, I became a smaller version of myself. I let my husband make all the decisions. I let my daughter make terrible choices without consequence. I let fear guide me instead of strength. You didn't do that. When you learned the truth, you didn't shrink or hide or make excuses. You stood tall. You demanded better. You built something beautiful from the ashes of your marriage. That's the legacy I wish I'd left. Not money or property, but the example of a woman who knew her worth and refused to settle for less. Live boldly, Simone Brooks. Love carefully. Trust slowly. But above all, never again let anyone convince you that you're anything less than extraordinary. With admiration and respect, Ruth Marie Patterson. P.S. There's one more thing I need to tell you. Something about Nicole that you should know, not for her sake but for yours. Nicole is pregnant again. Not with Gregory's child. With someone else's. She's getting married to a man she met in Colorado. A good man from what I've heard. I tell you this not because I think you should care about Nicole's happiness, but because I want you to know that everyone is moving forward. Gregory is working his retail job and trying to rebuild his life. Nicole is starting over with someone new. Even my grandchildren are adjusting to their new reality. The only person I worry about is you. Not because you're not doing well, I'm sure you're thriving. But because sometimes the people who survive trauma hold on to it longer than they need to. They define themselves by what they overcame instead of what they built after. Don't do that. Don't let Gregory's betrayal be the central story of your life. Let it be a chapter. An important chapter that taught you valuable lessons. But just a chapter. Write new chapters. Better chapters. Chapters about success and joy and maybe even love again if you find someone worthy of you. Write the story you deserve, Simone. Not the story that happened to you, but the story you create for yourself. The end. I read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Not sad tears. Grateful tears. Mrs. Patterson, even in death, was still looking out for me. Still trying to make amends. Still believing in me. Attorney Walsh handed me more documents. The deed to the Charleston property. Information about the rental management company. A key to a storage unit that contained all of Mrs. Patterson's books. The property generates about $24,000 a year in rental income, she explained. After property management fees and taxes, you should net about $18,000. That's not a fortune, but it's solid supplemental income. It's incredibly generous, I said, my voice thick with emotion. Mrs. Patterson was very specific about her wishes. She wanted to ensure you were taken care of. That weekend, I drove to the storage unit. Inside were hundreds of books. Classics, modern fiction, poetry, biographies, design books, everything imaginable. All organized, cataloged, carefully preserved. I spent hours going through them, reading inscriptions, finding notes Mrs. Patterson had made in the margins. She'd been a thoughtful reader, underlining passages, writing questions, engaging with every text. Among the books I found a photo album. Pictures of Mrs. Patterson as a young woman, beautiful and full of life. Pictures of her wedding day. Pictures of Nicole as a baby, as a child, as a teenager. And tucked in the back, a picture of me. The one from the Design magazine article. Mrs. Patterson had cut it out and saved it. On the back she'd written, "The daughter I wish I'd had. The woman I wish I'd been." I sat on the floor of the storage unit and cried. For Mrs. Patterson, who died with so many regrets. For the woman I'd been who believed Gregory's lies. For all the versions of ourselves we lose along the way. And then I dried my tears, locked up the unit, and started planning. I spent the next month moving books to the mountain cabin. I built floor-to-ceiling bookshelves in the living room. I organized them by genre, by author, by color, in some places just because it looked beautiful. When I was done, the cabin had transformed into a library. A peaceful retreat filled with stories and wisdom and the spirit of a woman who tried in the end to make things right. I invited Andrew up for a weekend to see it. "This is incredible," he said, walking through the space. You've created something really special here. Mrs. Patterson created it. I just gave it a home. Tell me about her. Really tell me. You've mentioned her a few times, but I don't know the whole story. So I told him. About the knock on my door. About the revelations. About 9 years of betrayal. About how Mrs. Patterson's courage to tell the truth had changed my entire life. She sounds like an extraordinary woman, Andrew said when I finished. She was flawed and complicated and burdened with guilt. But in the end she did the right thing. That takes courage. Like you did. Like you do every day. I shrugged. I just try to live honestly. To make choices I can be proud of. That's all any of us can do. That night, sitting by the fireplace with Andrew beside me and shelves of books surrounding us, I felt something settle in my chest. Peace maybe. Or completion. I'd survived the worst betrayal of my life. I'd rebuilt myself from the ground up. I'd created success and stability and beauty. And now I had this. A sanctuary. A library. A gift from a woman who'd believed in me even when I didn't fully believe in myself. 6 months later, on what would have been Mrs. Patterson's 70th birthday, I hosted a small gathering at the cabin. Candace, Tasha, Rachel, Andrew, a few other close friends. I want to tell you all about someone important, I said as we gathered around the fireplace. Someone you never met, but who changed my life. I told them about Mrs. Patterson. Not all of it, not the painful details. But enough that they understood who she was and what she'd done. She taught me that it's never too late to do the right thing, I said. And that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is tell the truth even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. We raised our glasses in a toast to a woman none of them knew, but all of them could appreciate. To Mrs. Patterson, Tasha said. And to second chances. To Mrs. Patterson, we all echoed. That night, after everyone had left and Andrew had gone to bed, I sat alone in the library. I pulled out the photo album and looked at the pictures again. Mrs. Patterson's whole life laid out in snapshots. And I thought about my own life. The pictures someone would look at someday. What would they see? They'd see a woman who survived. Who built something from nothing. Who refused to be defined by what happened to her. They'd see a successful businesswoman. A teacher. A friend. Maybe, someday, someone's partner. They'd see someone who lived fully, loved carefully, and never settled for less than she deserved. That's what Mrs. Patterson had wanted for me. That's what she'd sacrificed her peace of mind to give me. And I was determined to honor that gift by living the best life I possibly could. I closed the photo album, turned off the lights, and climbed the stairs to bed. Tomorrow I had a client meeting. Next week, a lecture at the design school. Next month, a trip to Italy with Andrew. Life was full. Life was good. Life was exactly what I'd made it. And I owed that, at least in part, to an old woman with cancer who knocked on my door one Tuesday afternoon and told me a truth I needed to hear. Thank you, Mrs. Patterson. Thank you for everything. 2 years after Mrs. Patterson's death, 4 years after my divorce, I sat in my penthouse office overlooking the city and realized I'd built everything I'd ever wanted. My design firm had expanded to 4 locations across 3 states. I'd been featured on the cover of Interior Design magazine. I'd won awards, spoken at conferences around the world, and built a reputation as one of the top designers in the country. My personal life was equally fulfilling. Andrew and I had been together for almost 3 years. We'd found a rhythm that worked for both of us. He had his business in New York, I had mine here. We spent weekends together, took trips when we could, and supported each other's ambitions without trying to merge our lives into one. It wasn't traditional. My mother still asked when we were getting married. But it worked for us, and that was all that mattered. I'd also reconnected with old friends, made new ones, traveled to places I'd only dreamed about when I was married to Gregory. I'd learned to salsa dance, taken up photography, volunteered at a women's shelter helping other women escape difficult marriages. My life was full and rich and entirely my own. On a bright Saturday morning in May, I was preparing for the grand opening of my 4th studio when my phone rang. A known number. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. Simone Brooks. A man's voice, unfamiliar. Yes. My name is Dr. James Rodriguez. I'm calling from Mercy Hospital. I have a patient here who's asking for you. Gregory Brooks. My entire body went cold. What happened? Mr. Brooks was in a car accident. He's stable, but he's been asking for you. He says he needs to speak with you. It's urgent. I don't understand. We've been divorced for 4 years. I have a no-contact order. I understand. I'm just passing along the message. He was quite insistent. After I hung up, I sat with the information for a long time. Gregory was in the hospital. Gregory wanted to see me. Gregory thought even after everything that I would come. I called Patricia. "Don't go," she said immediately. "You don't owe him anything." "I know. He's probably just looking for sympathy. Or money. Or a way back into your life." "I know that too." "Then why do you sound like you're considering it?" "Because, I don't know. Closure maybe? Curiosity? I want to look him in the eye and feel nothing." "Simone, you already have closure. You don't need his permission to move on. You've already moved on." She was right. But still, something pulled at me. I called Andrew. "What do you think I should do?" I asked. "I think you should do whatever feels right to you. If you need to see him, see him. If you don't, don't. Either way, I trust you to make the right choice. You're not worried I'll take him back or something ridiculous like that?" He laughed. "No. I know you better than that. You're the strongest person I've ever met. Gregory lost his hold on you a long time ago. In the end, I decided to go. Not for Gregory but for myself. To prove that he had no power over me anymore." The hospital was bright and clean, all white walls and sanitizer smell. I found Gregory's room on the 3rd floor. He looked terrible. His leg was in a cast, his face bruised and swollen. He'd aged badly over the past 4 years. Gray hair, deep lines around his eyes, a defeated slump to his shoulders even lying in a hospital bed. "Simone," he said when he saw me, "you came. The doctor said it was urgent." "It is. Thank you. Thank you for being here." I sat in the chair beside his bed but kept my coat on. "What do you want, Gregory?" "I wanted to see you. To tell you something before it's too late." "Before what's too late?" "You're going to be fine. The doctor said you're stable." "I know. But the accident made me think. About my life. About what I've done. About what I've lost." "Gregory, please. Just let me say this. I've rehearsed it for years. Every time I see you in my mind, this is what I say." I crossed my arms but stayed silent. "I was wrong. About everything. I lied to you, I betrayed you, I stole from you. I built a life based on deception, and when it all came crashing down, I lost everything. My business, my money, my reputation. Nicole. The kids. All of it. You didn't lose those things, Gregory. You threw them away." I know I did. And I've spent every day of the past 4 years regretting it. Living with the consequences of my choices." "Good." He flinched. "I deserve that. I deserve all of it. But Simone, I need you to know that I never stopped loving you. Even when I was with Nicole, even when I was lying to you every single day, you were always the one I really wanted." "Then why did you do it?" "I don't know. I wish I could give you a better answer. I was selfish. I was greedy. I wanted everything. I thought I could have it all without consequences." "You were wrong. I was wrong about so many things. But mostly I was wrong about you. I thought you'd always be there. I thought no matter what I did you'd stay. You were so stable, so dependable, so forgiving. I took advantage of that." "Yes, you did. And when you finally stood up for yourself, when you walked away and took everything I tried to hide, I realized what I'd lost. Not the money or the business. Your respect. Your trust. Your love." I looked at him, this broken man in a hospital bed, and felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no pity. Just a mild curiosity about why I'd ever thought he was worth my time. "Is that all?" I asked. "I was hoping. I thought maybe. Simone, is there any chance you could forgive me? Not to get back together. I know that's impossible. But just so I could have some peace." I stood up. "Your peace isn't my responsibility, Gregory. I forgave you a long time ago. Not for you but for me. Because carrying around anger and resentment was exhausting. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It doesn't mean friendship. It just means I've let it go." "Have you? Really? Look at me, Gregory. Really look at me. Do I look like someone who's still hung up on you?" He looked. I let him see the expensive suit I was wearing, the confident posture, the wedding ring on my left hand that I'd put on that morning just for this moment. His eyes caught on the ring. "You're married?" "Engaged. We're getting married next month in Italy." It was a lie. Andrew and I weren't engaged. But Gregory didn't need to know that. "Is he good to you?" "He's wonderful. He respects me. He supports my career. He's honest with me. Everything you weren't. I'm happy for you. I mean that. You deserve someone who treats you well." "I know I do. That's why I didn't settle for less this time." I walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. "Gregory, I hope you find peace. I hope you rebuild your life into something you can be proud of. But I won't be part of that process. This is the last time we'll see each other. I need you to accept that. I understand. And Simone, thank you for coming here, for giving me a chance to say what I needed to say, and for building the life you deserve. I'm sorry I wasn't part of it. I left without responding. In the hospital parking lot, I called Andrew. How did it go? He asked. It was fine. Actually, it was perfect. I looked at him and felt absolutely nothing. Good. That's good. Andrew? Yeah. Want to get married? Silence. Then, are you serious? I don't know. Maybe. I told Gregory we were engaged. It seemed like a good way to make the point that I've moved on. But as I was saying it, I realized I wouldn't actually mind if it were true. He laughed. Is that the most romantic proposal you could come up with? Probably not. But it's honest. I don't need marriage. I don't need a piece of paper to validate our relationship. But if you wanted to, I wouldn't be opposed. Let me think about it. And maybe next time we discuss marriage, we should both be in the same location. Fair enough. 3 weeks later, Andrew surprised me with a weekend trip to the mountain cabin. We hiked, we read books from Mrs. Patterson's library, we talked about our futures. On the last evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, he pulled out a small box. I thought about your proposal, he said. The incredibly unromantic one you gave me from a hospital parking lot. Oh God, you're never letting me live that down, are you? Never. But here's my response. He opened the box. Inside was a simple silver ring with a small sapphire. I don't need marriage either, he said. I'm happy with exactly what we have. But if you want it, if it would make you happy, then yes. Let's get married. In Italy, like you told Gregory. Or here in the mountains. Or in a courthouse in sweatpants. I don't care where or how. I just care that we do it on our terms for our reasons. I took the ring, slid it onto my finger. It fit perfectly. Our terms? I repeated. I like that. Is that a yes? That's a yes. We got married 6 months later. Small ceremony, close friends and family only, in a vineyard in Tuscany. I wore a bright red dress instead of white. Andrew wore a green suit. We wrote our own vows, made our own rules, celebrated our own way. My mother cried and said she'd never seen me happier. Candace gave a toast about how proud she was of the woman I'd become. Tasha and Rachel coordinated the entire event and made sure every detail was perfect. It was nothing like my wedding to Gregory. That had been traditional, formal, exactly what was expected. This was joyful, unconventional, entirely us. After the wedding, Andrew and I spent 2 weeks traveling through Italy. We toured design studios in Milan, explored ancient architecture in Rome, relaxed in the Tuscan countryside. On our last night, sitting on a terrace overlooking Florence, Andrew asked, "Are you happy?" Deliriously, I said. You? More than I ever thought possible. Good. Let's keep it that way. We flew home to our separate cities, our separate businesses, our separate but connected lives. And it worked. Beautifully, imperfectly, wonderfully. A year after our wedding, I was invited to give a TED Talk about design and resilience. I almost said no. Public speaking on that scale terrified me. But then I thought about Mrs. Patterson, about her final letters, about living boldly. I said yes. The talk was scheduled for a conference in Vancouver. 10 days before, as I was rehearsing in my office, my assistant knocked on the door. Simone? There's someone here to see you. She says it's important. Who is it? Nicole Harper. I went completely still. Tell her I'm not available. She said she'd wait. She seems desperate. I thought about it. 4 years of no contact. 4 years of peace. Did I really want to break that now? But curiosity got the better of me. Fine. Give me 5 minutes, then send her in. Nicole looked different. Older, tired, but also somehow lighter. She carried a small folder. Thank you for seeing me, she said. I know I have no right to ask. You don't. So make it quick. I'm not here to apologize again or explain or ask for anything. I'm here to give you this. She handed me the folder. Inside were documents. Legal documents. What is this? Gregory tried to sue me last year. He claimed I owed him money for the house in Riverside, for the kids' expenses, for everything. He lost. The judge ruled that he gave me those things as gifts, that I owed him nothing. But during the case, all this information came out about his business dealings. Illegal things. Tax fraud. Embezzlement from other clients. Things I didn't know about. She pointed to specific pages. I thought you should have copies. In case he ever tries to come after you again. in case he tries to claim you owe him something or that the divorce settlement wasn't fair. This proves he was committing crimes, hiding money, defrauding people long before your divorce. I looked through the documents. It was damning. Proof that Gregory had been dishonest with everyone, not just me. Why are you giving this to me? Because you deserve to have it. Because if he somehow gets his life back together and comes after you legally, you'll have ammunition. And because she hesitated. Because my mother would have wanted me to. Your mother was a good woman who made mistakes. Like we all do. She talked about you a lot those last months. She was so proud of how you handled everything. She said you gave her hope that people could be strong, could stand up for themselves, could build good lives even after terrible things happened. I try. Nicole stood to leave. I won't bother you again. I just wanted you to have those documents. And to tell you that I'm glad you're happy. You deserve all the good things you have. After she left, I sat with the documents for a long time. More evidence of Gregory's crimes. More proof that I'd made the right choice in leaving. I called Patricia and told her about Nicole's visit. She brought you ammunition, Patricia said. That's interesting. Maybe she's trying to make amends. Maybe. Or maybe she just wants to clear her conscience like her mother did. Either way, keep those documents safe. You never know when you might need them. But I never did need them. Gregory never came after me again. The last I heard, through the inevitable grapevine of a small city, he'd moved to another state. Started over somewhere no one knew his history. I hoped he found peace. I hoped he learned from his mistakes. But mostly I just didn't think about him at all. The TED Talk was terrifying and exhilarating. I talked about design as a metaphor for life. About creating spaces that reflect who you truly are. About having the courage to tear down what's not working and build something better. The talk went viral. Millions of views, articles written about it, interview requests flooding in. My business exploded. More clients than I could handle, opportunities I'd never dreamed of. I had to hire 20 more employees, open 2 more locations, bring in partners to help manage the growth. It was overwhelming and amazing and exactly what I'd worked for. Through it all, Andrew was my anchor. He celebrated my successes without jealousy, supported my ambitions without trying to control them, loved me without trying to change me. You're doing exactly what you were meant to do, he told me one night as we video chatted, him in New York, me in my city. I feel like my life is happening so fast. Like I'm racing towards something, but I don't know what. Maybe you're not racing towards something. Maybe you're just living fully. Isn't that what Mrs. Patterson told you to do? He was right. This was what living fully looked like. Messy and busy and challenging and wonderful. 5 years after my divorce, I hosted a celebration at my mountain cabin. Not for any special occasion. Just to gather the people I loved and celebrate the life I'd built. Candace and Tasha and Rachel were there. Andrew, of course. My mother, who'd finally accepted that my life didn't look like hers and that was okay. My design team, my students, my friends. We ate good food, drank good wine, told stories and laughed until we cried. As the evening wound down, I stood on the porch and looked at the library through the window. All those books, Mrs. Patterson's legacy, glowing softly in the lamplight. Andrew came out and stood beside me. What are you thinking about? He asked. About how much has changed. How different my life is now from what I thought it would be. Is that good or bad? Good. Definitely good. I just wish Mrs. Patterson could see it. I wish I could thank her again. I think she knows. Wherever she is, I think she knows. Maybe he was right. Maybe Mrs. Patterson was somewhere, watching, seeing what her courage had made possible. I hope she was proud. I hoped she knew that her final gift, the gift of truth, had changed everything. I turned to Andrew. You know what I want to do? What? I want to set up a scholarship. For women going through divorces who want to start businesses. I want to help them the way Mrs. Patterson helped me. Give them resources, training, support. A chance to build something new. That's a beautiful idea. I'll call it the Ruth Patterson Second Chances Scholarship. She would love that. Over the next year, I established the scholarship fund. Raised money, created a program, helped 20 women in the first year. Each one with a story of betrayal, each one with the courage to start over, each one building a new life from the ashes of the old. At the first graduation ceremony, where the women presented their business plans, I gave a speech. Mrs. Ruth Patterson once told me to live a good life. A full life. To not let betrayal make me bitter or afraid. She told me I deserved better than what happened to me. And she was right. Each of you deserves better too. You deserve second chances. You deserve to build businesses and lives you're proud of. You deserve to thrive, not just survive. This scholarship exists because one woman had the courage to tell me a truth I needed to hear. And now I'm passing that gift forward to you. Take these resources. Use this training. Build something amazing. And then, someday help another woman do the same. That's how we honor the people who help us. Not by staying stuck in gratitude, but by moving forward and lifting others as we rise. The women applauded. Some cried. All of them looked determined and hopeful and ready to face whatever came next. Just like I had been 5 years ago when Mrs. Patterson knocked on my door. That night, I went home to my beautiful house. I poured a glass of wine and sat in my living room, the same room where I'd learned about Gregory's betrayal all those years ago. I thought about that woman I'd been. Shocked, devastated, lost. And I thought about the woman I'd become. Strong, successful, free. The journey between those two versions of myself had been hard. Painful. Terrifying at times. But it had also been necessary. Transformative. Worth every difficult moment. I raised my glass to empty air. Thank you, Mrs. Patterson. For everything. For the truth. For the gifts. For believing I could handle it. You changed my life. I hope I'm making you proud. Somewhere I like to think she was smiling.